Hey guys, it's Sleepy from the future here. There's a couple of leveling issues part way through here. It doesn't carry on all the way through, but I do apologise for that. Also, that guy with dreads joins in about 27 minutes late, so you get to hear his voice again. Hope you enjoy. Hey guys, and welcome to the latest in the SleepyTalk podcast. This is episode 4 now, I believe. And today I'm joined with some very special guests. We've got Poisson-Lanterne, Creepypasta, from Belgium, and he's quite high in the French Creepypasta community. And we also have Phosfur from the Phosfur gaming channel. If you'd like to introduce yourself, guys.
Hi everyone. First of all, I'm really glad to be here, Sleepy. So thanks for inviting me. I'm not really used to talk English, so I'm already apologizing for my accent, or if I'm looking too much after my words. I'm gonna try my best. I'm Poisson-Lanterne Creepypasta. So I run a channel of 7,300 at this day subscribers, and I'm telling French creepypasta for now a little less than 2 years.
Hi, my name is Vincent, but on YouTube I go by Phosphor Gaming. That's the name I'm being referred to as here is Phosphor. I also run a YouTube channel, but for people who enjoy video games. I make reviews and quick clips and stuff like that. So I don't have nearly as impressive an amount of subscribers as Lantern does, but I'm trying. I'm going to be talking today about the Amityville Horror in America because, well, three of us come from three different backgrounds. Sleepy is in the UK, I'm in the US, and Lantern is in Belgium, France. So that's really interesting. Yeah, so the Amityville Horror, it's a real house in New York, in America. Obviously, I'm really bad at this. I apologize.
Don't worry.
So the Amityville Horror. Amityville is the name of a county in New York, right? And the house at, I believe it is 112 Ocean Avenue, it was based on a true story, the movie and the book, where this family was brutally murdered by their oldest son. The son shot the dad, the mom, the brothers, the sisters, and the neighbors reported hearing no gunshots, no screams, no anything. It's just, one day you wake up and your neighbor's entire family is just gone. And that's a real thing that happened. That is what inspired the book, the movie, the remake movie, and several sequels and spin-offs. And that's just absolutely bizarre because none of them have any continuity between like themselves and the source and the actual story. The real guy, the dude that shot his family, is actually in prison to this day. He's still alive, and he still claims that he hears voices in his head, like demons won't leave him alone. And in the movie, the main villain, like the reason why the house is haunted, is that this dude who lived on the house, he tortured Native Americans and Indians and just people that lived on the land, and just cursed the house with his own blood. He committed suicide in the house, and it was really intense, but that doesn't pop up anywhere in the book or in the original movie. And if you look up the guy's actual name, his name pops up more in account with the Salem witch trials, which is just completely bizarre that the directors chose to go that route. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about a little bit about the witch trials in the last one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they were doing some sort of supernatural continuity by just moving a character from a different supernatural phenomenon to this one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In the movie and the book, the father of the new house, because this is another real thing that happened, is that a year after the entire family was murdered, another family known as the Lutzes, it's Lutz. The Lutz family moved into the house after they had gotten rid of the publicity, the bad press. They moved a new family in there, and then they experienced something absolutely horrific. And within that, just 28, I believe it was 28 days, that cycle alone, they were actually ran from the house terrified. They never returned. They never went back for their personal belongings. They were just so spooked that they couldn't bring themselves to come back to the house. And that's what the movie is actually based on, is the new family that moves in. And how the demons pretty much mess with the dad's head. They make him angry. They make him violently angry. And he wakes up at 3:15 every day for the entire month. They wake him up at 3:15 in the morning and just do something different to him just to irritate him. I remember at one point in the book, the dad actually hears an entire marching band in his living room. You know, like horns, trumpets, drums, all of that. And he goes out to investigate, and there's nothing there, obviously. But all the furniture was moved to the walls, and the rug was rolled up as if they were making space for the marching band.
Oh, that is creepy.
Yeah, could you just imagine just hearing that loud of a source? And you go out and there's just nothing.
I mean, it's not like the scariest thing, but you know, when people are burgled, let's say they have that sense of safety is disappeared.
Something's been moved.
Yeah, it's gone. So if you're going mental like that and thinking like even your castle, your house, you know, the place where you feel the safest is not safe. Every single day, every waking minute, especially at 3:15 a.m., you are gonna go crazy.
Yes, I have an acute attention to detail. So I remember when I was still a teenager, I would come home from school, and I could immediately tell if someone had been in my bedroom, because I'd be like, I didn't leave this here, or I didn't put that there, something's been moved. Like I could just immediately tell when someone was in my room.
I don't know about you, Lantern, but whew.
Yeah, I bet it's creepier even if you know the story of what happened there. Were they aware of what happened in this home before?
In the book, it's not certain whether or not they know. In the movie and the remake with Ryan Reynolds, like the teller tells them, but the character himself, like the dad, he's like, oh well, houses don't kill people, people kill people. You know, houses aren't, like, they don't have memories, they're not haunted, and they move in anyway, regardless of which, because the price of the house was so low after all the murders. So they move in anyway, even if they're aware, and they just don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah, and then the house just made a big troll face and just told them, nope, you were wrong.
Yeah.
Imagine the scene.
By the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie that I watched came out years ago. I'm talking like 10 years ago, and I remember watching it. I can only remember snippets, but there was something like the basement he went down to, and there was different demons and things in there, or ghosts. You'll have to recap.
In the remake, Ryan Reynolds finds an entire like torture chamber tunnel that's built inside the basement under the house.
That's it.
Yeah, that's one of the one you're talking about, the 2005 one, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, I can't even. Do you know what? You said Ryan Reynolds, and I was thinking in my head, surely it's not Ryan Reynolds. But I've seen the movie, Reynolds. But I forgot. I didn't realize it was Ryan Reynolds.
Me and my wife recently rewatched the movie a couple months back, because I remember watching it back in 2005 when I was maybe 8, I believe. I watched it then, and it scared the life out of me, dude. So I never watched it again. But a couple months ago, we rewatched it for the first time in literal decades. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, is that Ryan Reynolds? You know?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, in the movie, he finds an entire torture chamber in the house. And that's where the main evil entity kind of possesses him and tries to get him to murder his new family.
Yeah, I remember that. So, Lantern, was this film ever available in Belgium? I imagine it probably was, but...
I'm not a big movie fan, so I don't know much about all this stuff, but yeah, probably.
Okay. I can't believe that was 15 years ago now, though. That's bugging me.
I mean, the original movie came out in the 70s, I believe.
Yeah. That is the worst thing is that Ryan Reynolds was in it, and I didn't even realize.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
I bet
Oh
Deadpool
my
would
God,
have
they
done
got
better.
Deadpool in this
Yeah,
one.
he would have done better down there, Deadpool. Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about personal experiences with entities?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so my family, every holiday of every year, my family gets together at my grandmother's house, right? And we all celebrate, we drink, we eat, we hang out. And at the end of the night, before everyone goes home, we all line up and take like a giant family picture. My grandfather passed away when I was little, and his father passed away before I was born. And death happens in every family. Every time someone passes away and we take another group family picture, we see orbs in the picture, like new orbs. And so I totally believe in spirits, like 100%, because of that alone. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is almost concrete evidence that if they're in certain positions as well. This is a weird one. So I think I touched up on this in sort of like my first podcast where I was talking about spirits, where I believe potentially it could be energy that's left. So if there's a lot of energy at a certain place, that's where it does. So maybe every day that energy is still there.
Yeah.
And it's just.
I remember. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, carry on.
I was gonna say that I remember specifically at one of these family events, because you know how children are more susceptible to spirits. We were all in the room, and we had this dynamic where it's like, all right, the kids will hang out in that room, watch after the babies, and all the adults get to hang out and get drunk together. It was very annoying, honestly, but I remember one year, we're all sitting in the room, and the youngest of our family members is just like staring into space and looking around the room. And we're just watching, like no one's saying anything. We're all just sitting there watching her, and her eyes are following something that no one else can see. And I was like, all right, yo, it's time to go home. Spooked.
Yeah,
You know?
no. Yeah, no, I get it. Again, in the first podcast that we did, I talked about where the first house that me and my mum used to live in, where I don't remember any of this, but and probably the people that have watched every podcast are probably going to get bored of me talking about my experiences because I've already shared them. But there was a woman there, a spiritual woman or entity, who my mum used to wake up to me talking to her. And then, I can't remember any of this, but apparently I'd tell my mum things about this woman who used to live there, and it was a really tragic state of affairs on how she died. Her husband was a farmer. He got trampled by his cattle. And then
sucks.
she took her children and drowned them in the ponds that were just behind where we lived, and drowned herself. But then she was stuck in that house. Again, I don't know how true that is. Whether I don't disbelieve my mum, but I've always been skeptical of things like this. So it's a weird one, and because I've got no recollection of it either.
Yeah.
It's
that is
one
a
of
bit
those
bizarre.
things.
I think one of the only other, because I've had a few paranormal encounters in my life, and this one that I'm about to tell you about, I actually made into a video on my channel. But the video itself is hugely dramatized. I've changed the voices and added music and sound effects and creepy pictures and all that. But the actual story is that we were walking through Central Park, which is it's in a lot of movies. It's in New York. It's basically like, I think, 300 to 800 acres. I don't know the exact size, but it's a very, very giant park in the middle of the city. It's got trees and lakes and all that. So we're walking through it, and obviously there are cemented paths that you can walk on for the public. And I see a dirt road off the side, and I'm like, oh, look at this. It's a secret trail. We're gonna find treasure at the end. And my brother dares me to go inside, and I'm like, I'll go if you go. you know? So we're walking and we come to this huge space where there's just nothing. Like it's supposed to, it looks like they were doing construction here, but they never finished. But they took all of their construction machines. Like it was odd that there was just this huge clearing in the middle of what was practically nowhere, and it's a dirt path leading to it, as if something goes this way often. You know what I mean? And in the bushes next to us, we just hear this loud growling noise. And me and my brother don't even look at each other. We just turn around and run, like full force.
I think I've watched that. I think that was the first one that you sent me when I joined the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the first conversations we had. We swapped creepypasta stories.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but that's just weird. Weird growling and things like that.
Yes, I've never gone back to that part of the park.
That's right.
Like to this day, I've never gone back.
Lantern, have you got any personal things that have been weird?
Yep, I've actually lived two, but one is way more spectacular, if I can tell, than the other one. So I'm just gonna talk about this one. It was for a video on 2018 for Halloween, and I went in a kind of creepy forest not so far from where I live, and I went there as an urbex to explore it, and there was some legends in there, like some creepy eyes you can see in the dust, but so high that there would be a giant's eyes, and some creepy satanic stories in the forest. And I've been there, and the first thing I saw just before entering the forest was a little blue light that came from a bush on my right, and another blue little light just went along with this one, and they were perfectly synchro, and I absolutely don't know why, but I felt like it was two eyes staring at me, and I was absolutely terrified looking at this. But even if I looked very well to this, it wasn't belonging to an animal. I bet there were insects or something like this, but they were so in synchronization, it terrified me. And then they came back into their bush, and I went just staring at it for a long minute before daring to finally enter the forest. And so I'm making my vlog in the forest. I'm telling about all the creepy stories that's been happening there for my video, not just walking quietly there. And then I've stopped somewhere, and I've been preparing a little fake ritual for it was on a really old site, kind of cheap. So I've prepared everything I needed to, and there was a few sentences to pronounce, and at the very moment I ended pronouncing what I had to tell, the wind started blowing, but the hardest wind in all the nights, and which was kind of creepy. And when I was back at home, I realized that my lights were absolutely terrible, so the whole thing was just a black screen. So I just ended crying blood and realizing I had to go back the day after, which I made. So the day after, I came back to the forest. No little creepy blue lights to greet me, but the ritual was exactly the same. But this time, the wind started blowing a little, just a second before I finished my sentence, and this time it was even harder than the day before. And most terrifying, I heard footsteps behind me, and I swear they wasn't animal footsteps. The rhythm was definitely the same rhythm as it's someone just walked in the leaves, and definitely a human. And when I turned back to look if someone was there, I didn't see anyone. I called is there anyone, and I didn't see a thing. So I just ran out of the forest to get out of here, and I've never been in this forest back, and I still don't know why I heard these strange footsteps behind me.
So you,
Bro, I thought I had it bad.
yeah, you had a crazy experience to start with, and then you went back for a second crazy experience, and
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I wanted to make my video, and with just this the black screen, I couldn't post it. So I just bought a new great lamp, so you can see something. And then yeah, I came back, and maybe I shouldn't have, but well, it's been like 1 year, and nothing strange happened to me. Again.
Well, third time's the charm, as
Can I
they
ask a
say.
question?
Yeah.
Okay. So you say you were doing this for a video. It happened a year ago. So obviously this wasn't the first encounter you've had. Can I ask what got you into making creepy videos on YouTube?
Before it, I just had a little experience, but that's probably just my imagination for this one. I was at home, and I heard my my entry door, who opened, which happens at some times because of the wind. I'm in a flat in the 6th floor, and after closing the door, I heard a strange noise coming from my from the room just after, and I heard the phone, like the synthetic voice of the phone, speak. I didn't understand what it said, but it was like when we call a number that doesn't exist. And then I heard the phone that just hang off, um, as if someone has tried to just call someone and then put the phone back on the
The
part.
receiver?
Yeah. And I've been absolutely terrified, so I grabbed a knife and I went to look if someone was there. Obviously, I didn't find anything. So this wasn't kind of creep, but I've made creepypasta way before it. And what drove me into telling creepypastas on YouTube is that I saw many years ago someone who did this. His channel is called Pourquoi avoir peur? So why being afraid? Translated in English. His pseudo is Aube. Hi Aube, if you listen to this podcast. And he did it at first with a synthetic voice, and he were at 140,000 subscribers, which was the most subscribers that anyone has ever had and at his time for creepypasta telling. And now the first one is Danish with 300,000. But I was a very big fan, even though the synthetic voice don't kind of fit for this today. And my cousin showed me this video, so some years after, I absolutely wanted to make video on YouTube, and I decided this was a great thing to do, and so I just started reading stories on internet, and then I started writing my own. So almost one of two of my videos were written by myself. Yeah, that's how I ended making videos on YouTube.
It's pretty neat.
That's cool.
So out of all the videos you've done, how many are based on your actual life? Is it just that one?
Oh, on my actual life, I can pick some elements of my life to make creepypastas about it, but this was the only video I made. The video I made in this forest is still on my channel. You can still view it. But I'd say like 4 or 5 creepypastas I've written were highly inspired by something I've lived, but they were just normal events like my childhood, etc. But I've never lived anything like horrific like this one.
All right.
Okay, cool. Just to let everyone know, a wild Ryan has appeared.
Hi.
Ryan, who couldn't join the podcast and has joined in 25 minutes late. Hello, Ryan.
Welcome.
I bet he's got his mic on mute.
Oh, can you not hear me?
I can hear you now. Hello.
That should be okay. Right.
I can hear you.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
So, for just a quick hello introduction to Ryan, that guy with dreads, he was in the last podcast. He was meant to be joining this one. He is here now. So, hello.
Hello.
That guy with dreads. I love your username.
And am I correctly?
You are lagging like mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear the half of what you're saying.
Right. This might go well.
I still didn't understand a thing.
It's
Except
okay.
You may
it's
wanna go into
mad
your voice
as
settings.
his mic.
We're at 25 minutes anyway, so I'm gonna edit this bit out.
Yeah.
It's cutting off after like half of the
Yeah,
word.
the minute you start speaking, it goes down. If you
Is
look into your voice
any
settings.
better?
Keep talking.
I'm in the settings. Just trying things. As you know, I'm not very good at this stuff yet.
Well, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
you now.
Yeah, that was perfect
Yep.
for me.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome. Right. I just hit a slider about automatically detect something, and it worked. So I'll leave it at that.
There we go. You can't do it automatically.
Yeah.
So do you want to just say
So
hello
do you
to
want to
everyone?
reintroduce him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
gonna reintroduce you, and then.
Go for it.
So for those of you that are still listening, and everyone else in the chat, a wild Ryan, or that guy with dreads, has appeared.
I like that. I do like it. I need like a noise. I like a noise. Hello, guys. Sorry for being
do
late.
you want me to put the anime? So we were talking about personal experience. I think you touched up on something personal in the last one, Ryan. Unless you've got something else.
Personally, to me, when it comes to, I mean, you're my introduction to this world almost, to be honest with you.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I've not really, this whole thing, I don't know quite what to call it, but I've sort of like dismissed it in that it's just something that isn't necessarily there. Don't really need to get into it. But as I've got older, got a little bit more, for want of a better wording, open-minded. Seems a bit more interesting. The closest thing I could talk about is it called past life aggression? Where you're talking to people perhaps beyond the grave. It wasn't myself that went to one of these things, it was my mum. But from that point onwards, I was like, okay, there might be more to this. I don't quite know how that fits in.
It's up to you. If you want to discuss it, we could leave it for a later one.
Yeah,
Or...
I mean, that's the most sort of, for want of a better wording, mystic of an experience I've had. And I was just listening back to the recording, and from that point onwards, I never sort of dismissed any spooky things I might have heard along my travels. But some of the stuff that was just being said by the gentleman doing this reading, that's what they're called, was pretty bang on in regards to many things going on in my mom's life at that time and in the past. So now when I hear things about ghosts, or I mean, in preparation for this, I was looking into cryptozoology. Which I didn't even know was a thing. I didn't even know there was a profession around that at all.
Cryptozoology, does it have to do with animals?
Yeah.
So it's like
Like ghost
chupacabra,
animals?
Loch Ness monster. See that I gave you the terminology, didn't I, Ryan? So
Yeah, it gave me the word cryptozoology, and I went away and I'd spent a lot of time looking into mermaids.
I mean, I
just
was
ended up looking into mermaids.
I was watching the I know this is bad, but I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast. So if anyone listening hasn't seen Joe Rogan's podcast, if you think these are good, watch his, and then you'll think these are trash and never listen to us again, because that
Nah.
guy,
Aw,
that
buddy.
guy
Nah.
can honestly, that guy can run a podcast with a mute. Honestly, he's just incredible at them. But they were talking about I think it's in Peru. There's a cluster of mountains that it basically, you know, like how you have landlocked islands. They're like that. So there's a forest inside this cluster of mountains, and the only way to get into this forest is by helicopter. And it's
Really?
it's not actually been descended upon yet.
Sounds like the Hidden Leaf Village to me.
Yeah. So this place could hold certain we'll say certain things for cryptozoologists. So not prehistoric creatures, but definitely creatures that we think have been
Haven't been
extinct,
discovered yet.
or
Creatures that are difficult to locate.
Yeah, creatures that we believe are extinct, or probably have been extinct when it comes to the actual known world. Whereas going into this area, it's a huge area as well. It's not just like a small rock pool in between some mountains. It's a huge area that's just undiscovered. We don't know whether there's native tribes in there. We don't know whether...
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, we're forever finding
Insane.
tribes in the Amazon and stuff.
What if they're more advanced than us? That'd be insane.
Yeah, Wakanda forever.
Oh, please.
That'd be amazing.
Wakanda in the mountains.
Yeah, but yeah, there's certain creatures that they think could still be there, like the giant sloth.
I'd like to rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
You were going to tell a story about your mom?
Oh no, yeah, it wasn't really a story, unfortunately. It was. Is it called? She went to go and see one of these people that talk to people beyond the grave. My auntie had recently passed from cancer, which hit her quite hard. I think it was a couple of years later. She'd gone to see. I believe it was called past life regression. I can't remember what the
Like a
actual term.
spiritualist.
Yeah, he just sits down. From what she described, she sits down in front of this gentleman, and this is like weird, eerie vibe as he looks at her for a while, held her hand for a bit, and then just like gives her messages from her sister. But in the build-up, it's all recorded, and in the build-up, he was just telling her things about us and our family and stuff we'd been through. Sort of vaguely, loosely. This is where I'm a little bit skeptical, because you could, if you really wanted to, sort of make it
Like
relate
pick it
to
apart.
you. Yeah, you could make it relate to you if you really wanted to, or you could be like, that's way too vague, I don't buy it, give me something more specific. But it was just in regards to how she'd passed as well, with it being cancer, and that she lived a lot longer than anybody she'd seen said that she would. And like towards the end of her life, things that happened were pretty spot on, but everything other than anything regarding it, anything he said that wasn't regarding my auntie was quite vague. But obviously my mum had gone to see him in hopes that she could communicate with her sister. So then when it got to that point, he was on a couple of things eerily close, even in regards to like headwear she would wear when obviously through the therapy she'd lost her hair, and she'd wear particular pattern bandanas and headwear, and he could describe those. It's from that point onwards I was like, okay, this whole spiritual, ghosts, psychics, all of that, I don't know quite what to wrap it up and call it, might be more to it.
Do you yourself believe in spirits?
It's hard. I would have to define spirits.
He thinks that my recorded creepy thing where I was doing a vlog, he calls fake on that.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not. Yeah. People get very excited over the door opening a bit.
Yeah, light turning on by itself.
Yeah, I would much sooner jump to something that I personally would deem far more logical than spirits. But
Hmm.
I'm not saying they're not there. I've just never personally experienced. I've heard many testimony from people that I wouldn't, just dismiss, such as Sleepy himself. I've got enough respect for him to think, well, he's not just going to talk nonsense. There's got to be something to this. He's quite intelligent.
Oh, thanks.
No, not just you, mate. Don't worry. But yeah,
Yeah, you're not special.
I'm sort of looking for someone to convince me, but I don't want to sort of change my position on it until then.
Yeah.
A lot of it could be explained, well, in my mind at least anyway, by science.
So you're more
Me personally.
Mm.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you're more like on religious terms agnostic. You don't think there's anything out there, but you'd like to believe that it is.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the coping mechanism. I mean, like I said, I see religion and many other sort of things that people use to live their lives as just coping mechanisms to make sense of this whole madness of, those deep questions. Why are we here? When things are bad, you lean on these things like religion or even science to cope with it. So I'm not to say it's all nonsense or anything like that, because there are things I might use to cope that other people might think are nonsense, which might not be to me. But it's all too loose, particularly religion for me.
No, we'll keep the political things aside.
Yeah.
Politics,
Spirituality and
religious
ghosts
talk,
and
we'll
stuff
keep
as well.
that to a minimum.
There's too many other feasible options out there for spirits for me. But like I say, one thing you mentioned on one of your previous podcasts, Sleepy, was, I can't remember what they're called, night demons?
Oh, my sleep paralysis.
That's the one.
Yeah, that what I went through, that was awful.
I've had similar experiences, but I didn't realize there were similar experiences till I heard you talk about them, or whoever else was on with you, and I'm like, wait a second, so that might be...
Oh God, not again.
That, yeah, because I've been so dismissive of the types of things before. Maybe I have had experiences and just scienced them away, because I wasn't in any sort of mind to consider anything else.
So, Lantern, have you experienced or know of anything to do with sleep paralysis and things like that?
No, I've never lived such a thing. I know many people who lived it and who told me how it was, but I've never experienced it for myself. But as Ryan said, as you said about Ryan, I have the kind of same point of view towards paranormal events, like at a religion point of view, agnostic. As you said, I can't tell that there isn't anything beyond that we cannot see, but I cannot say the opposite as well. So even with the kind of weird events that I talked about a few minutes ago in the forest, I cannot tell one or the other. I cannot position myself, and for the religion, it's exactly the same thing.
I think it's a nice place to be fair, in the middle, on the fence, as we like to say. So I'm the same. Like, I've had stuff happen, but I try and explain it away. But I think I don't do as much science things as what Ryan does when he's trying to explain things. I'm more open to things, but I still question everything, and that's the point that I try and make in every podcast. Question everything.
The two sides are kind of finding, the scientific side and the side that wants to believe there are some things that we cannot explain, except by saying that, there are spirits or some other things we cannot really see. The two sides are fighting each other, and you just can't decide. It's like choosing between your parents. You cannot decide which which one
Yeah.
you want to choose, and you're just in the middle, and you doesn't want to choose.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yes, that's very good.
So where do you
Way of
stand
putting
then,
it.
Phosphor?
I take a bit of a neutral stance on the subject.
So
I
this
take a
is
neutral stance
this is
on
great.
it. Well, I was raised Catholic. I went to church when I was very little, but that's mainly because my mom believed in it.
Same.
And over time,
Same.
I kind of agree with. I'm sorry, is it that guy with dreads?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Just call me Ryan.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Ryan. Okay, yeah, that works. I eventually began to no, wait, this is odd. We have better explanations for this, But over time, because my mom believes in witchcraft, my mom is very spiritual. My mom considers herself to be a witch, and before I was born, she told me the story because my mom had a very rare blood disorder, and she was very sickly, like a lot of the time. And one day she's in the hospital, and she claims to have seen an actual angel. Like, she saw a light and a person, bam, angel. And after that encounter, she claims that she never had the issue again. Her blood disease was just gone, and the doctors cannot explain to this day why it is the way that it is.
So, I mean, just to touch up on that, so what made her choose Catholicism over the other religions that are out there?
That is a question for her. I assume she was raised into that religion by her parents, and then she tried to raise me and my brother into it.
Okay.
That would be the most clear-cut explanation, but I honestly couldn't give you a real answer.
Yeah. I know there's plenty of so just sort of going a little bit out there. There's plenty of people that are raised in we'll say agnostic families, but we know that they're just atheist families. That have sort of like a higher power experience, and they stick to a certain religion. And it'd be interesting to see whether it's the area that they grow up in, whether it's the country that they're in, to see where they stick to. Because obviously, I know that where we are, Ryan, is predominantly Christian, or Church of England.
Yeah.
which is a branch
I went
of Christianity.
to C of E schools.
I did. I went to C of E
and
school.
I don't particularly consider myself a Christian.
But
it's just part. It's almost the running religion, almost like the one you fall into if you're gonna just fall into one here.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
So maybe it's geographical, because Phosphor, around you, is it mainly Catholic?
It was between Catholics and Christians. It depends on the part of New York that you're in, because where I grew up primarily there was a lot of that, but in other neighborhoods I know it's more heavily Jewish or more heavily Muslim religions. It really just depends on where you are. So I do believe it has something to do with geography, but also your heritage and just who you grew up around.
Yeah. And Lantern, what's the sort of main...
The consensus?
The general consensus in Belgium.
Belgium is mainly Christian as well.
Christian, right? Okay.
Yeah, I've been raised as almost everyone, I guess, in a Christian family, and it was when I was like 15, 16, I'd say that I started questioning it, and started not unbelieving, but falling into the agnostic point of view I've got now.
I think we're pretty much, all four of us, even though we're from different places, are pretty much the same then.
Just occurred to me is, even though I'm not like, for want of better wording, sold on the idea of Christianity, for some reason or other, I have to sort of correct myself, for want of better wording again, in the whole concept of the afterlife. I don't know why it just came to mind, then I just realized, I just casually thinking, I'll be like, yeah, so there's the afterlife, and it's almost heavenly, hellish sort of type scenario. Like, I've almost, but then now in my conscious mind, I don't think that there's any sort of ruling God. Yeah, I do believe in the afterlife portion, instinctively, for want of better wording. I don't think about it. I think there is, and then I think about it, and I'm like, well, maybe there isn't an afterlife scenario like heaven and hell. It's sort of,
it's very interesting when you start to talk about it, or when you start doing the research, because there are religions that are much older than Christianity and Catholicism.
Oh yeah.
Like I recently started looking into Norse mythology with Thor, Odin, Ragnarok, all of that.
Yeah.
And in their religion, that point of view, the only way to get into their version of heaven, which is called Valhalla, is to die in combat. If you don't die fighting, you go to hell. If you die of old age, you go to hell. And someone mugs you and just stabs you in the back, you go to hell just cause you didn't die fighting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to hell then.
That's really interesting,
There's always
it's like
been
one of my for my job. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Sorry, no, I was cutting you off there. Sorry, I'm very bad for that. You carry on.
He is. Tell him to shut up. Call him Ryan.
Yeah.
Say shut up, Ryan.
I don't
Shut up, Ryan.
Yeah.
For my job, I work with homeless people, and from time to time we're required to work with the police so they can protect us. And I was talking to this officer, and he's saying that his boss hates him because of his religion. And I say, why? He's like, oh, I'm Nordic. I'm like, so you mean you're a Viking? And he's like, yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, that's super cool, because I think Vikings, just in general, are cool. But then that also sucks, because that means if he wants to get into Valhalla, he has to die in combat.
I mean, the police force in America is probably the greatest way to do that.
Greatest job for that.
Yeah.
It's in the right place.
I mean, I'm not being out of tone when I say that, I hope, but...
No.
Well, compared to
America's
here,
on
at least,
fire
anyway,
right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's...
There is no way of finding a warrior's death in the UK.
Yeah. Well, unless you go down, like, South London. Or East.
Yeah. Great.
So,
Yeah,
speaking of going to war in South and East London, brings me on to my topic. It's another building called the Enfield Poltergeist, and that was in London. So this was seen on the film The Conjuring 2, but The Conjuring 2 had The Nun. If you have watched the Conjuring films, they've made a Nun film. I've seen all of them. Yeah, so the second one, The Conjuring 2, where they went to London to see the girl who was levitating.
Yes.
So that is based on a true story. And
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
There we go. So it's all right. It's just my segment. All right. No, it's fine. So the reason that this gained so much traction was because there were police statements. The mother of the children rang the police. They came round and wrote down in the statements, which you can see today, saying that a chair moved. I think it was around 4 feet. So not just slide and, your eyes play tricks on you. It actually moved like a good person length away. And there were many psychics and paranormal investigators went round. And there's meant to be over 2,000 different claims there when it came to it. So when these investigators were there and recording things, 2,000 different instances where they could claim that the supernatural exist. Which
I'm just having a quick look over it now, like on the old Wikipedia, and like from what you're saying, this is the problem. Like from what you're saying, I'm like, nah, it's got to be some sort of setup. I don't care. But then I'm reading little bits and bobs, and I'm seeing like, this researcher. Society of Psychical?
Yeah, psychical. Yeah.
What is psychical?
Just psychics.
Okay, right. See, okay, now I'm a little bit back on the skeptical side because it's psychics.
It's interesting from the perspective that Ed and Lorraine Warren are actual people. They're actual paranormal investigators. They're very famous for what they've done. If you want to give them a Google search real quick.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've never seen any of the movies, even though I grew up in East London, didn't know anything about this because again I dismissed it up until more recently in my life. But I think I want to start with the movies, start with the easy things and then see where I go there, because I'm just quickly just typed Enfield Poltergeist into Wikipedia and I'm already wanting to go into a little bit. I'm not even fully reading it. I'm just trying to not be rude and still listen to Sleepy and taking some information here. And I'm already a bit like, wait a second, there might be more to this than just, a chair that moved. It's not just, like you pointed out, it's not just a chair wobbled, which is usually the case in these types of things.
Yeah.
The chair wobbled a little bit.
This
is like
flew across the room.
Moved.
4 feet,
okay.
like almost, a very small person length moved. And this is the weird thing as well, is so there were certain investigators that went in, and apparently they told the kids, so there's 2 kids that were mainly affected by it. I think it was the youngest daughter. I've forgotten her name already. But the youngest daughter was the one who was affected the most, but apparently Janet was meant to be afflicted the most when it came to this, and it was meant to be an old man that was in there, basically saying that he's not going to leave and things like this. But
it's my house, you have to get out.
Yeah, well, did he say get out, or did he say I'm not going anywhere? Something like that.
He said both.
Did he? Right, okay. There we go. See, you know more about it than I do, and it's my topic.
I'm a big movie buff, so that would explain why.
It's usually the case.
I watch a lot of movies.
You mentioned earlier it was actually in the movie. When you say actually in the movie, you mean like video evidence that was taken at the time, perhaps? I mean, wait a second. When was this? Let me look at
70 something. So there was a movie on it. So The Conjuring 2 is a movie. I can't recall whether they had the actual evidence in there or not, but
they did not.
They don't. Okay. But
during, I'm really sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Okay.
In the credit sequence of the movie, they show the actual photographs that were taken compared to the actors.
Right. Okay.
There we go then. There is fabrications in that film. Obviously, the nun is in that, and without ruining it, they made a film about the nun after because it gained so much traction. But either way, the youngest daughter was the one who was afflicted the most. She was talking as if possessed and talking in a gruff voice like an old man, which is one of the weird things. But there were different sort of conspiracies as well, and a lot of people fobbed it off as fake. There was evidence that the girls did fake certain things, like bending spoons and acting up for the cameras. But even to this day, I mean, they're middle-aged women now, probably in their later 50s, maybe 60s. And they, to this day, they say maybe about 2% of it was fake, but the rest of it was real.
Ooh.
Which is really weird. And there has been
terrifying
families that have been in there after this. So I think the house, when a house is haunted, everybody expects it to drop down in price, but I think it goes up. If I'm right, I think
this is where this is something I always have to cast in there. How does money come into it?
However, this was a council house.
Ooh.
So, if for those who don't know, council houses you don't buy. They're houses that are given to you to live in.
State-owned.
Yeah,
it's probably the best way to word it.
You have the option to buy them, but they're state-owned houses for people who are struggling families and things like that. So she was a single mom with 4 kids. She needed a council house.
I see. Yeah, we don't have those in the U.S.
Yeah. So
just.
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go. I think it was Thatcher actually. Not going off topic, but there's millions of council houses across the UK. So this is one where an old man died in it. This family moved in. They were afflicted for quite a few years. There was a lot of paranormal investigators around that. Some of them went on TV and said it was a hoax and had evidence for it for being a hoax, and then it all got hushed up. Then another family moved in after this family moved out, and within a very short time, I can't remember the exact time, but within a very short time that family moved out. They packed up and ran.
Yeah.
And then there's a family in it now who don't want to be named and who aren't willing to give interviews or anything about what's happening in the house.
They live to this day that somebody's living in the same house.
Yes.
I could imagine they're a bit Johnny Deppish.
Maybe.
Like, just slightly oddballish and like Adam's family-ish. Why would you want to? Even if you don't believe, I'm still not 100% sold. I wouldn't go in that house.
Well, this is the thing about the Amityville house as well. Is what about haunted houses do people not seem to sort of grasp when they're moving in there? So obviously you were talking Phosfur earlier about the Amityville and how it was a family that moved in after all these horrific things happened. Mm-hmm. Is it just because they're cheap over there? Do they drop in value when there's a horrific murder, or?
The Amityville price went down, but I feel like it's dependent on what happened in the house. Like in the Amityville house, an entire family was murdered in their sleep, so that obviously brings the market value down.
Yeah.
But for the Conjuring house, that's what I'm going to call it. The Conjuring house, no one was actually killed in the movie. It was just a ghost that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I feel like the market value depends on what happened in the house. If it was one guy that was like killed in the backyard, all right, that's fine. We'll keep the value relatively around the same price, but a little bit lower. But an entire family was murdered in their beds. And that's the crazy part is, I neglected to mention this earlier because it slipped my mind. The police that investigated their murders saw that there were no signs of struggle. There were no signs of panic or fear. Like, everyone was shot in their beds while they were asleep.
How did they not wake up from the first gunshot?
That's the thing.
Sorry for cutting you off. You were just about to say that.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, if you hear a gunshot next to you, because the kids slept in the same room, if you hear a gunshot next to you, you're not going to wake up. The parents didn't wake up. There's so many bizarre factors about it. And the fact that there were no struggles, and the neighbors didn't report hearing gunshots despite living in close proximity to the house. So it's like, in my opinion, the ghosts or the demons or whatever the fuck is in there, you can't pay me to go near that house. They must have muffled the sound because there's too many bizarre factors for something like that to be on a scale.
You can't even a silencer is not gonna be enough to like stop it being heard by somebody in the same house,
in the same bedroom,
in the same bed. Yeah, like jeez.
No.
So there's we mentioned the Amityville Horror before you joined, Ryan.
Yeah, again, it's I just know of it as a film. Didn't really know that there was anything real related to it. Never seen the film. Probably just was spending around the time it was popular watching anime. But it's going to be something that I'm gonna look into this. The one at the Enfield as well. Got something to Netflix now.
So as I mentioned earlier, I was able to go to a virtual event called the Bordeaux Geek Fest virtual experience. It was meant to happen in real life, but due to Corona-chan, it couldn't just happen. So I was invited because it was virtual. They were able to invite many more people than as if it was in real life. So I was invited to make a creepy night, if I can tell, with some other creepypasta tellers. But before this, before it, I was invited as well by the admins of Creepypasta from the Crypt, which is the biggest French site, I think, of Creepypasta. They exist since 2013, 12, I don't know. So hi guys, if you pass by there. And we had like 1 hour to talk about creepypastas and the French point of view, and like the differences between the English point of view, even if we're all French there and didn't know much about the English point of view. And I immediately saw that there was a disagreement of the definition of creepypasta. Everyone told his own, and like the admin of Creepypasta from the Crypt have a very special point of view about Creepypasta. Like they absolutely have to be eventually real. Like there has to be a way of transmission. Like if the story was to be real, how did it come to the sites? Like did someone write it? Did someone record himself telling it, or told it to someone else? Like how could it arrive there? And I asked them how they viewed the fact that some of us creepypasta tellers, how they view the fact that we creepypasta tellers sometimes tells creepypastas that doesn't fit their own definition. Like I've done a lot of creepypasta that didn't have this way of transmission thing, so it is someone who's already dead telling how it ended dying, without having the occasion to record himself or to write it down. And yeah, the answer was that they wasn't like angry at us, but it's not something they really like to see, because they're kind of fighting to keep their definition. And it's interesting because in their sites there are two different parts, like one part for the creepypastas that fits in their definition with some very strict rules, and another one called Necronomorial, I think, because a lot of writers sent them really good stories, but that didn't fit their definition. So all of these stories are put in this second section, the Necronomorial, but it's not what they're going to show at first on their site. So we talked about this subject because there are two schools, like the ones like me who don't care much, and as soon as to me, as soon as it's horrific enough, it's a creepypasta that deserves to be on my channel, which is very different for them. And then we talked a lot about the children thing, like many children who listened to our stories, and they told me that we creepypasta tellers have a kind of responsibility towards these children who are watching, and who were sometimes driving crazy because of this. Like it happened something really awful some years ago with the. Do you know the Slenderman murder?
Yeah. So the Slenderman
Yes.
murders, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
two girls that murdered one of their mates because Slenderman thought them told them to do so, and yeah, this admin told me that we have some authority for this, and my answer was that it was their parents' job and not mine. I've read a lot of comments under my videos telling, yeah, my little sister or my son saw your video and now he's afraid. What a monster! And my answer was always the same. Where were you when your little sister or your kid were watching my video? Like, creepypasta is always in the title. The thumbnail is kind of creepy. I always make sure that it's as creepy as possible. Um, and that I didn't want to put age limits, for 16 years or more, because my videos would be like demonetized. I wouldn't be able to earn money with it, and the video would totally be destroyed by YouTube. Like it wouldn't
Yeah,
be
struggle is real.
shown to my subscribers. And yeah, as I told them, I didn't want to destroy my own work because children who are not supposed to be there are there. So the topic was mostly this. But I'm very interested for you guys to tell me what is the kind of English vision of this. Like, are there many different schools like us in French with strict definitions, or don't you really care? How do you see it in your side?
So,
Well, I thought that Sleepy came up with the whole concept of creepypastas, but a few weeks ago, I had to be told that no, it's a massive thing, Ryan. Just because you've just only become aware of it through this fella
Nah, Sleepy
Sleepy
made it.
doesn't mean he came up with it. And I argued for a good 5-10 minutes before I just googled it and realized that I was very, very wrong.
I'd
There
just
is
like
a huge
to.
thing in America. Less than well, in the French side, it's kind of a targeted public, but in the English side, there are many channels that has gone more than 1 million subscribers, and I was always amazed by that fact, and I've been always very interested of this side.
So, I'd just like to clarify before I say, I didn't tell Ryan that I created
Oh no.
creepypastas.
Trust me.
I just
Trying to
opened the
take credit.
door to the spooky wooky side of things for Ryan, and Ryan latched onto me like a peasant to a god.
Nice comparison, I see.
Yeah. So for me, when it comes to, I'm quite new to the whole creepypasta thing. So I used to use Creeps MC Pasta. I used to listen to him and Creepypasta Junior, the American guy, just to help me go to sleep, because it seemed to be the only thing that made me go to sleep. I was having a lot of periods of insomnia. So that was my sort of jump into this world. For some reason it was recommended on YouTube, and I looked at it, and straight away I was hooked, and I enjoyed it that much that I decided to spend like nearly, I'm coming up to over £1,000 now, on a setup where I could record my own. And every time I've gone into YouTube prior, it's been to make money and to get monetized, and I've had small successes, but this time I've gone in because I feel like I gained a lot out of the creepypasta side of things when it came to my insomnia, that I wanted to give back, and hopefully my annoying voice puts people to sleep. So for me, when it comes to your question anyway, Lantern, so I'll start with the classifications. No idea. I've got no idea what the British standpoint is. I only know of one British YouTuber.
You cocktease. I was actually thinking you had an answer for me then. And
Yeah.
you're like,
No,
"No
you
idea."
gave us
Great,
this whole
thanks.
spiel.
Yeah,
Yeah. Insomnia, and this is how I got into it. And this is what I want to get
I
back.
know.
By the way, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I did say to start with that I'm very new to this side of things. As far as I'm aware, there's no real sort of massive definition, and I don't want people to hate me for saying that. If it's creepy and it's a story that's been written by whoever, then for me it's a creepypasta, and I will read it on my channel if I enjoy it. I think when you go too specific on classifications, it kind of ruins the fun. If the story is written from somebody who's already dead, that's a good story. If it's written by somebody who was alive at the point where they wrote it and then they died, that's a good story. And if they survive it and write their experiences, guess what? That's a good story.
Yeah, I would judge a story based on how well it's written rather than how realistic it is.
Exactly. It's
They don't judge a story of how realistic eventually it is, but they classify horrific novel and creepypasta on two very specific cases. That's what they're
yeah. So
telling. But they don't reject the horrific novel, even if they made a video on their YouTube channel. I think it's the only YouTube video they ever made to explain their French point of view, and I participated in it just to lend my voice in it, and they told something that not shocked me, but almost like the English ones just denied what they were and kind of fell into horrific novels more than creepypastas. But I totally agree with you, Sleepy. As long as it is creepy, a creepy story, something horrific, I don't really mind if it is a strict creepypasta or a horrific novel or more of a fantastic story with creepy elements. I don't much care about this as long as I can make my subscribers, my viewers creep or even sleep, because a lot of people fell asleep with my videos as well. I hear it almost every day. That's fine for me as soon as they get something positive in my videos, and as soon as it is kind of creepy, I am absolutely don't mind as well.
but there we go. Yeah. So the specificities, for me, I don't care from a British standpoint of view. There may be a creepypasta society in the UK that's probably gonna like strike me down. But for me, yeah, I don't care on the storyteller's point of view. A creepypasta is a fan-made creepy story, regardless of how it's written. As long as it's good, I'm reading it.
But let us know in the comments if you know some kind of creepy English society that classify some stories.
This is my perspective on it, if I may.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
Because I've been on YouTube since like 2007, like a year after it was made. I've always been interested in watching YouTube. I think the first creepypasta I ever watched was Jeff the Killer. I don't know if you guys know that one.
Doesn't jump to mind.
Yeah, I've heard of Jeff.
It's one of the more older like first creepypastas, if you want to give that a Google.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always into watching them because I think creepypastas have been around as long as YouTube has. You know, if it wasn't on YouTube, it was probably just a scary story on the internet at one point. But then you get everyone doing their own interpretation of it. As the years go on, I think it was around 2010 when Slender Man started to become more popular with
Yep.
the stories and the games. There was a YouTube channel called Marble Hornets, and every video that they posted was far and few in between, but it was shot from the perspective of the guy holding the camera, and it was about Slender Man haunting him and his friends, and like just them trying to survive the nightmare. And because the whole thing was recorded off of like a really grainy, really bad phone camera, that only added to the realism of it. But of course, it's all fabricated. It's all made up for the show. Later on, these two girls in the U.S. murdered one of their best friends, and the reason why they killed her is because Slender Man told them to do it. That's the statement that they gave.
Yeah. So
You know, that's insane. That people could take it to that level.
it is insane, but it's also the same argument for that relates to you really with your gaming channel.
I was going to say that seems like a cop out for like our video games cause people to.
It does. It sounds, there are, I don't like using the word, but there are evil people out there.
Yeah.
It could be lack of empathy, so psychopathy. What's the other one? Sociopathy. So a sociopath, These people are smart with how they do things. The sociopaths not so much, but the psychopaths definitely. Everything's planned out. Everything is how they want it to go. So, children can be psychopaths. Children can be sociopaths. It's just a mental thing. It's something to do with the brain. And
Way
lack
the brain
of empathy.
develops.
Yeah, lack of empathy. You know, and it's the same argument with video games. You know, a video game doesn't tell a child or a teenager or an adult to go out and shoot a load of people. I don't care what you're playing, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's GTA, whether it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which isn't a game, but it's a film, but you know. It doesn't tell kids to do these things, but what these kids decide to do from that point is 100% down to the parents for letting them do these things. There's age rating on things for a reason. Now, I know Lantern said that he doesn't have an age rating on his channel. I do. But that's purely because I swear, not because I think that it's creepy. So if I'm swearing from a certain story, I tend to say that it's not suitable for kids. So
yeah.
Again, and having people like me on your channel as well.
Exactly, but the thing is, these things for me, I don't do them for children. If children watch them and they enjoy them and they're accompanied by an adult, fantastic. If their parent thinks that they're mature enough to listen to these sort of things, then great. If a child is watching and they're unaccompanied by an adult and they're on the main YouTube channel and not on YouTube for kids, how is that?
Yeah, that's in part what I'm talking about. Is like I was never monitored when I was on the internet. Like when I was watching YouTube when it first became a thing, like my parents didn't necessarily watch what I was watching, but I was watching stuff like Jeff the Killer and stuff like Slenderman, and there's another YouTube channel called Cry Reads where he reads creepy stories the same way you do. And that goes back to what Lantern was talking about, like where are your parents at? Like a lot of kids are not monitored while they're on the internet.
So, but the fault lies with the parents. I have a child now. I have a newborn baby. This is my first child, and I know full well. Thank you. I know full well that when they have internet access, I won't be able to monitor them 100% of the time, but you'll be damn sure I'll try to.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the kids and maybe stumbling into this and getting a bit spooked is how have they come across it? I mean, if they're just going on the YouTube recommendations, or you'd have to like, do these things pop up? I mean, obviously I'm new to this. I haven't done too much YouTubing on it yet, so it's not throwing it at me. But if these kids are on YouTube as just something they do, how have they ended up on something like this without looking for it?
Well, I'll tell you a kind of off-topic story. But there was times when I was going through my insomnia where I'd just go for YouTube recommended, and then let the videos play, and then it would automatically
just go where the algorithm takes.
Yeah, it would just keep playing the next video and the next video. I ended up getting into Japanese bug fights. And that is like the weird side of YouTube. And there was a point where there was a live stream of it, and the point where I turned it off was when I was thinking, oh, I'll bet on this Hercules beetle. Like,
yeah, maybe I have a problem.
I know that geographically, the YouTube algorithm is completely different. So the way that kids get onto these things, I don't know whether you said in Belgium that there's a big following for Creepypasta, especially in French, in the French language. There's a big following for Creepypasta. So maybe the recommended algorithm for YouTube in French YouTube, or French YouTube, that makes sense, is more steered towards sort of like the cult following of creepypastas, and that's probably why kids are getting onto there if they're on the main YouTube site.
I think it's because we're on the recommendations of some other YouTubers, who are telling like real creepy stories, murders that really happened, and they put it in video in a very attractive way, like almost with fun and with like as if they told what they ate yesterday, you know, with yeah, a very amount of fun in their video. And because it's not so far from what we're doing, it's that drove them into the horrific side of the force. And I think it is this way that they come into our videos. I'm gonna tell about an example. My most viewed video is about the application Talking Angela. Because children are very attracted by yeah, titles and thumbnails that are very like, oh my god, you will never you'll never guess what happened in this story, you know, with shocked face in the
Not just
thumbnails.
children, me too.
Yeah, they're very attracted by this. So this Talking Angela thing, the title was like, beware of Talking Angela, and I got 100 thousand views with this.
Wow.
And every damn day I get comments on this one that are like, oh my god, is it true? Or at the opposite, they're telling me, oh, you liar, I've tried myself what you described in your video and it doesn't work, you're a big liar, I hate you. I've been insulted in the comments of this video. But I feel like it is because they're like the horror a lot, but only if it is very attractive, like clickbait, you know.
Yeah.
And this is a
Like the
lot.
3 a.m.
This is
stuff.
made. Yeah, this is a lot made in the French side with some YouTubers that make everything to use clickbait like this because it's interesting for children. Only in this case, and these children might have our video in their recommendations, which is not a public that I really like to have. I don't regret making this Angela video, but yeah, the comments, the comments I get every day, I absolutely can't like it.
It's a
So
bit odd. Why would you go out of your way if you're not really? I'm assuming you're getting comments from people that just aren't really into the content.
Yeah, they're not in the content exactly.
So
This is
why
just
would you go out of
because.
your way just to bash it? Obviously, it's not for you. Just move on, isn't it?
Oh, of course. I
Mm.
can live without thinking about it, and I don't much look about the. I don't look much on these comments. It's just the notifications. Sometimes I see it, but well. Anyway, I've made more than 100 videos. It's just one video where the comments are a little bit cancer, but anyway, it's not a big deal.
I think Ryan was more talking about the actual commenters rather than yourself. So if it's not for you and you don't like it, why do people feel the need to comment on it and say you're trash or you're a liar? Why? Just move on.
I mean,
Because
like
they're
your
used.
video.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
they're used to it.
I mean,
To these real stories, that I'm sure they come from some other YouTubers that are telling it as if it was entirely real. So I can't really be angry at them. I just kind of pity them because I know where they come from and what drove
they've
them
missed the
into
point
this.
a bit.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
But-
Ryan?
I was gonna say, yeah, you're like when you a few weeks ago you asked me to check out your video, and I did, and I I don't believe I call fake a fix or whatever I said. I wouldn't have, if I ever stumbled across your video, I wouldn't have commented that. I
No,
would have thought that to myself and moved on.
I get
It's only
comments
because you
on
was
that
asking
now.
for. That's ridiculous. Like, why would
Yeah.
you? I don't know. Some people. I don't
Yeah,
know.
They're children. They're just
Yeah.
children. That's it.
I mean, this video was from 7 years ago, so if you haven't seen it, guys, I'll send you a link after. I'm not going to put it in this.
Put a link in the description.
I've already covered it on a different podcast. I can do.
Go on,
Yeah,
here's
sure.
a brief summary. Go on.
So it was back when I used to do vlogs, so I was monetized at this point. So this is one of my small successes. I had a couple of hundred subscribers, on this channel that I'm on now, and I used to do vlogs and do like daily rants on things. I was recording a vlog, and two of my wardrobe doors started moving like really erratically. Not like opening really wide, but like just moving. So like Ryan was saying, like a couple of inches here and there, but it was constant for about a good long minute. I didn't see it while I was doing the recording. I had a torch on my phone because I was recording on my mobile phone, or cell phone as you'd call it, Phosfur. I had the camera torch facing me, so I was kind of blinded by that. So I couldn't see anything in my peripheral. I could hardly see anything in front of me, and I was just talking to the camera. And it wasn't me who even noticed. So there's a comment on that video that says, from my friend who was helping me edit, that said, "Dude, look at your wardrobe doors at this time." So it gave me the
Yes, I
timestamp.
remember this. I watched that video.
Oh, there we go. And yeah, I watched
Wait.
it, and I was freaked out. Like, I was really freaked out. But this is another thing, like, I'm still skeptical. There wasn't a draft because my window was closed, my door was closed. It could have been a number of different things, but it still freaks me out just thinking about it now. And I still get comments on that video. I've kind of turned commenting off now because I'm just sick of getting the notification for it. But comments on that video where I did like a breakdown of it and delved into it and started talking about it. And people saying it's fake, you've got someone in there. Like, come on, man, it's a wardrobe. Like, I'm not going to have someone in there for a 10-minute vlog.
What's weird for me, right, is it looks too much like somebody, like a physical person, has somehow rigged it. But I don't know how it would look if a spirit or ghost of some kind had moved it. You know what I mean?
Well,
So I don't
nobody
know.
knows. Nobody knows,
Yeah,
because we don't know if they
this
exist.
is my problem. Like,
Yeah.
I can imagine, right? You've either got somebody with some string, or there's somebody behind it, or in the cupboard, and they just pulled it. It was all too sharp towards the end. The last motion was a bit too sharp for my liking, because in my head, a ghost would have done it very gracefully and fluently and softly.
Yeah.
It's a clumsy ghost.
But why? Where have I got that idea from?
I don't know,
You know?
but the thing is that, like, you've seen the breakdown video where I've sped and slowed down the camera.
Mhm.
I'll unlist it rather than private in the actual vlog because it's private now. I will unlist it just for you guys only, and I will send you the timestamps, and you can watch it in real time, and you can listen to me talk about whatever I was talking about on that time. And again, if you want to call fake, call fake. It doesn't faze me. It was 7 years ago.
Don't be a jerk about it.
It was 7 years ago. I don't care whether you believe me or not. I know something happened. I don't know what happened. I can't explain it. If I can't explain it to myself, I don't expect to explain it to you guys either. So
no, this is my thing for when people try to call fake on online videos is where's your proof that it's not real?
But where's our proof
show me
that it's
your
real
breakdown.
as well?
Yeah, show me your breakdown, because you know what, if I'm saying it's real until you disprove me, it's real as far as I'm concerned.
It's sort of that
You
sort
know,
of innocent until proven guilty. I've claimed this, so you got to disprove it. I can completely get that. Completely get that.
but
like
again,
when I posted.
Sorry, carry on.
I'm sorry. When I posted my video of the Central Park monster, but I mean the actual video from when I was a lot younger. We posted it to Facebook, and to this day, I don't know what happened to the post. I don't know if we deleted it or not, but we posted it to Facebook, and we had this one person, it was a girl, who was swearing up and down that we're just lying and it's fake, and she knows just cause. And she was just being the biggest jerk about it just because she said it was fake. When it's like, yo, I was actually there, and it's like, I understand that the camera footage is a little shoddy, but this happened. You can't prove that it didn't.
If I ever had an experience that I would be foolish to deny, like what from the sounds of it, what you have, I would probably look back at Sleepy's video and be like, yeah, no, that definitely happened. But because I haven't myself, that's the lot. I think that's just it. As soon as now I'm in a different mind, if I had any sort of experience that I might be able to justify to myself as spooky, I would lean to spooky rather than lean away from it. Now I'm just waiting for that, but you know, you can't go looking for these things, I suppose.
You can.
Oh well, yeah, but the problem is all the people that have gone
You
looking for it
shouldn't.
before look a bit silly to me if they're crazy, or to me personally, the crazy gizmos and stuff that I just don't understand. I'm like, you're making up words just to explain what that thing in your hand beeping is. I don't buy it.
I'll kill you for Slenderman, and then you can come haunt me and prove it to yourself.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for listening to the latest in the Sleepy Talk podcast. So if everyone wants to say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Remember to subscribe to Phosfur Gaming.
Bye. Vape my e-liquids.
Okay, that was the worst goodbye ever, but I'm going to end it there.